You have to take action to build this fund. Simply knowing that you need an emergency fund and figuring out how much you would ideally like to have in that fund is not enough. This money is not going to save itself. And when an emergency comes, you're going to wish that you had saved before. Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Are you a burnt-out healthcare worker, busy mom, or someone just wanting to simply self-care as much as possible? I have an answer that will simplify your makeup regimen and give you that glow and confidence you deserve. Saint Beauty is custom makeup for your whole face that comes in one single compact. It's lightweight, quick, easy to use, and amazing for all ages and skin types. Best of all, you get a PA, my friend Alyssa, as your makeup bestie to help along the way. To simplify your morning makeup routine, head to the link in the show notes for your free color match consult with Alyssa. An emergency fund. What is it? Do you really need one? How much money should be in it? Where do you keep this in case of emergency money? This year on The PA is In, we are going to go back to basics with finances and do a series of Financial Education 101. So today's episode is Emergency Fund 101. We're going to unpack what emergency funds are, who needs them, why this matters, and how much money you should have in this account, and what kind of account should your emergency fund be anyway. So first up, what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is an account or amount of money that is separate from your normal checking or spending account that is used for times of financial distress. Financial distress is, technically speaking, when a person can't generate sufficient income, making them unable to pay their financial obligations. What I see as financial distress is any situation when your expenses are more than your income. Any situation in which your bills and expenses outstrip your income during that time period qualifies as an emergency. The emergency fund doesn't make you money. It actually saves you money. It's like a self-funded insurance policy to protect you from life. The purpose of an emergency fund is to improve your financial security by creating a safety net that can be used to meet unanticipated expenses, things like illnesses or major home repairs. Emergencies, as we are using the term relative to an emergency fund financially, are things that are unexpected. Changing the oil or getting new tires on the car, not an emergency. Those are things that should be part of your monthly budget. You should have a sinking fund for them. Those are anticipated, regular expenses. A car accident or unexpected repair that outstrips what you currently have in your auto repair budgeting category, that's an emergency. You or someone you love is sick, that's an emergency. Your income goes from 2 incomes to 1 income, you get let go from work, emergency. Tree falls on your house and you need to vacate and pay for repairs, etc., etc., emergency. You know, I know that you would never think this, but just to clarify, a trip to Fiji or a sail at Nordstrom Rack, not an emergency. Funding college for your kids, not an emergency. Going back to school yourself, not an emergency. If it is something that you can anticipate, save for, plan for, and build up the amount of money so that you can cover that expense, it's not an emergency. If it comes out of nowhere and outstrips your current savings, that's an emergency. There was this period of time where my little kids heard this phrase, "Whoa, I did not see that coming," as part of maybe a story or a show or something. And as little kids do, they heard this phrase and they started to test it out and plug it into various parts of their vocabulary to see exactly where it would fit and how to use this saying. And they did not get it right for several months. So it was really funny because they would say something would happen that was not a surprise at all. And they would say, "Whoa, I did not see that coming." Emergencies are things that would make your 3-year-old self say with a genuine surprise, "Whoa, I did not see that coming." Because when it truly is a surprise and when we do not see it coming, that's when we want to dip into that emergency fund. Other things that we can plan for, anticipate, or just have really good planning in our monthly budget, not emergencies. So that's what an emergency fund is. Next, who needs an emergency fund? Everyone. In my humble opinion, everyone needs an emergency fund. From the person who is living paycheck to paycheck, who needs to save a buffer so that they can get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle, to those people who are wildly financially independent. Those people still need liquid assets that they can access when at any time to meet any emergency or unexpected needs or expenses. Are you sick of getting mystery beef at the grocery store from some unknown corporate production line? Promised Land Meats offers premium beef raised from a family farm, personalized to your family's needs and delivered to your door. We've been a customer of theirs for over a year, and we love the meat. Even Dan, who is really hard to impress when it comes to beef, won't stop raving about the quality of these cuts. You can truly taste the difference. Choose the Farm to Family subscription plan and get a customized farm raised beef box shipped to your door every 1, 2, or 3 months. Skip the grocery store and shop with your American farming family by going to promisedlandmeats.com or click the link in the show notes. When do you need an emergency fund by? Well, it depends where you are in your financial journey, and that's hard for me to answer on this episode, but as soon as possible. No, it is not an emergency for you to build an emergency fund, but it definitely should be both a priority in your financial life and a short term money goal. Aim to have at least 3 months of expenses saved in somewhere between the next 2 to 6 months if you can. Sometimes this is as simple as moving your existing savings into an account that's clearly labeled as the emergency fund and is off limits for everyday expenditures. Sometimes it's more of a process. Take stock of what you currently have saved. Figure out what your goal for the emergency fund balance is. More on that in just a second. Then you take your emergency fund balance and you subtract your current savings from that emergency fund goal. Divide that by the number of months until your goal of having a fully funded emergency fund. Then work that amount into your budget and your lifestyle. That's probably the most important sentence that I'm going to say on this entire show. Then work saving that amount into your budget and your lifestyle. You have to take action to build this fund. Simply knowing that you need an emergency fund and figuring out how much you would ideally like to have in that fund is not enough. This money is not going to save itself. And when an emergency comes, you're going to wish that you had saved before it happens. So, how much money do you need in this emergency fund? Experts agree, and I'm with them, that your emergency fund should be somewhere between 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. I'm pretty sure that Susie Orman says 8 months of expenses, but you get the idea. Somewhere between 3 to 8 months worth of expenses, depending on your life and your risk tolerance and your situation. You can calculate your monthly expenses based on your monthly budget. Yes, you do need a budget. The budget is like the assessment and plan for your money that you create each month. If you don't have a monthly budget, you should make one, but you could also audit your spending by looking at your credit and debit card statements and seeing what expenses are leaving your account on a regular basis, and use that to determine what your monthly expenses are as a household. Once you've identified your monthly expenses, I want you to multiply that by 3, 4, 5, or 6 months worth of expenses to get your target balance for your emergency fund. Now, you may be wondering, how do I know if I should aim for the 3-month end of the spectrum or the 6-month end of the spectrum? Well, I'm so glad you asked. If you are someone who has multiple income streams, less debt, and more wiggle room in your financial life and lifestyle, you can sort of skew towards that 3 months of expenses is probably reasonable for you. If you, on the other hand, rely on a single income, you have an irregular income that goes up and down depending on what time of the year it is, you see a potential for job loss or a big transition in your future, If you have higher debt or student loan burden, I would lean towards the 6 month end of the spectrum, just because there's more risk and variability as a part of your lifestyle and financial future. The bottom line is that the amount of money in your emergency fund should help you to feel some peace. Peace in your heart, comfort, breathing room, and reassurance that if it rains, you have a financial umbrella at the ready. Where should you keep this emergency fund? It should be liquid. Your emergency fund should be liquid, as in money that you can get to today or tomorrow if you need it. It should not be invested or in a place where penalties exist if you try to pull it out, like a Roth IRA or a CD. Two great places to keep your emergency fund are in a money market account with check writing capabilities or a high yield savings account that you can transfer that money out of and into your checking account. When I say that this money should be liquid, it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be earning you any income. At the time of this recording, our high yield savings account, which is where we store our emergency fund, at Ally Bank is an online bank without a brick and mortar presence, has an annual percentage yield of 4.25%. Now, these high yield savings account interest rates go up and down depending on the market. But this means for us that each year our emergency fund, combined with some of the cash savings we have for our soon to be adult or adult kids college fund, is growing by several hundred to several $1,000s a year. We don't pull that interest out from the account. We let it roll over and grow, and that interest continues to grow interest in the future. It certainly doesn't keep up with inflation. And so we look at our emergency fund savings balance about every 6 to 12 months. We look at the balance and we touch base on these three things. What is our income, and are there any big changes on the horizon? What does our stability look like in our life, and what is our risk tolerance? And our current monthly expenses, because those go up and down. Next year, praise the Lord, we will have 0 kids in daycare. And at that point, our expenses are going to change significantly. So when big changes like that happen, it's also a reasonable time to check in. How is your emergency fund? Is it still going to cover you with your current expenses? Because expenses go up and down over time. We use that information and we ask within our partnership, do we feel comfortable with keeping our current emergency fund balance the same? We have never said we think we need less than we have, but there have been seasons where we have said, hey, if we have a job change coming up, if we have something big coming up, we may want to pad that fund and bring it up a little bit. We would both sleep better at night knowing that there was a little bit more money in the emergency fund. Why do you need an emergency fund? Because shit happens. Life is unpredictable. Illness exists and job losses occur. Do we want those things to happen? Absolutely not. But do we want to be prepared so that if and when those things do occur, we can focus on our families and become healed and whole and healthy and not have to worry about money? Heck yes. Peace of mind is the reason for having an emergency fund. Because with a fully funded emergency fund, you'll sleep better at night. Integrating saving to have a fully funded emergency fund into your financial plan is a must-do step. Personally, our emergency fund helped me to feel financially stable enough so that when I was so burned out beyond belief and at my wits' end, that I didn't have to wait to line up a new clinical position before I gave my notice. In fact, when I quit my job from urology, I had to give 90 days notice. But I also requested that all of my PTO be used for post-call days and to shorten my grueling weeks because I was desperate to have a little bit of margin in those upcoming 90 days. The group, who had a policy at the time to approve all PTO requests, offered to end my employment in 30 days instead of 90. For the sake of my mental and physical health at the time, I jumped at the chance to get out sooner. And that was all thanks to a fully funded emergency fund. Imagine this. A family member calls you with a grave or serious diagnosis. Instead of worrying about the cost of flights and the loss of income, of taking time off of work, or worrying about what you're going to do in order to be able to afford this blip, you can focus on getting that family member, getting to them, getting them the care that they need, supporting them, and taking care of them the best you can. That is the benefit of having an emergency fund, my friend. It is a key piece of healthy money management. That is all for today. I would love to hear if you like these back to basics financial episodes. We will do upcoming ones on various different aspects. If you have things that you want me to cover, shoot us an email, themoneypa@gmail.com, something that you just don't understand or want explained. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of The PA is In. That's all for today. This PA is out. Congratulations, you've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.